Virginia Uplift Bible Study. Last time we talked about Gideon, and we're in Judges 6. And so we're going to recap a little bit of what we talked about before we keep going forward. Because of how they didn't worship God as they should have, because of how they became forgetful throughout their generation. So God sent judges throughout a certain time period. And so we're in 6. This is this story of Gideon. And so how it starts is then the children, this is the New King James Version, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord delivered them to the hand of Midian for 7 years. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel. Because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made for themselves the dens, the caves, and the strongholds, which are in the mountains. And then go to 6. So Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites, and the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. So the first aspect we looked at was how this was backwards. All right. So when the Midianites came to oppress them, their first reaction was to go into their strongholds, to build a stronghold, to build defenses of their own against the Midianites to try to survive. And once it just seemed like, the Midianites came, and then Midianites came, weakened their defenses. Oh, here comes the Amalekites. Oh, here comes people of the east. It opened up the gates for them. Their vulnerability was shown through their decision to go into the stronghold. And then at that time, they were impoverished. There was nothing else they could do. They cried out to the Lord. And what we talked about was recognizing ourselves in this passage. If you read about the Israelites, you'll know that, you can get aggravated with them. Because it's like, okay, God did this. He just wants to do this. And y'all keep forgetting. Like, y'all keep forgetting my mother. Y'all keep forgetting about Egypt. Y'all keep forgetting. And you'll see this, and they go into the passage, and it's like, how can y'all do this? But we have to kind of look at ourselves, like and I will even speak for myself. I just recently, was shown about me not recognizing God's love. I know it intellectually, but it's like, I don't really feel it. But it took me, I had to read about gratitude. It took me going over just my life in general and where I'm at now, and just all that I've overcame, but not through my own power, through what God has allowed, what He didn't allow, what He brought me through, what He pointed out, what all that He's done in my life. And it not only did it provide gratitude, but through gratitude came love. Like I recognized the love that God had for me, specifically me, through my life. But sometimes it's hard to just recognize that, especially when things are going wrong. And it has been going wrong for a little minute. It's like, okay, like, I don't really understand what it means that I'm the apple of your eye. What does that really mean? But this is recognizing who God is in your life and all that He's done and who He is. So, He's the creator of everything. Lord of Lord, King of Kings. He's so big and mighty and powerful, yet to specific details, each and every one of us, there's a billion, I don't even know how many people in this world. And yet each and every person He knows has a specific plan for each and every person, knows them to detail, has written in their books. Imagine writing a book for billions of people their whole life. While you're driving, all these cars going by, you don't think not one thing about these people driving by. You might say, oh, that's a nice car. Oh, that car messed up, or you just, you're just driving. You're just in your own life. But God recognizes each and every person or persons in these cars that's going past you. So it's opening your eyes that God not only is love, but loves you in detail specifically. And this is my ongoing journey. I haven't reached a pinnacle, but this is something that He's pointed out in me. The Holy Spirit convicted me of, that I'm choosing to try to walk in and grow in and learn. And as I learn, I want to give out. I don't believe fully in mastering something and then giving. I believe in the ongoing journey, because that's what our lives is. It's an ongoing journey. So I believe in giving out what I've learned even yesterday. Like, if I learned this yesterday, I'm giving it out, because this could help you to where it's okay. Oh, you figure that out. Okay, that is good. I was just thinking about that instead of waiting however long, I don't even know how long. And then like, okay, this is my testimony, this is my experience, which that will still be the case. My passions is upliftment. I want to uplift. What I learn, I'm giving out. Regardless if I've mastered it or not, I'm giving it out as I'm going through it. As I'm learning through it, as I know, I received the wisdom, I received discernment from God in these certain areas that I'm like, okay, this is a message that I need to give out. This is a study that I need to relate. God gave me Gideon to relate to what I'm going through in my life that I'm still having to, recognize and really apply to master, the reason why he gave me Gideon. I'm bringing Gideon to you all as well because this is something that's good that has been helping me and is continuing to help me that I think will help others as well. Keep going. They cried out to the Lord. The Lord heard and sent a prophet to the children of Israel, saying, "Thus said the Lord God of Israel: I brought you up from Egypt and brought you out of the house of bondage, and I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of all who oppressed you, and drove them out before you and gave you their land. Also I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not fear the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you dwell. But you have not obeyed my voice." So God gave his rap sheet. He's like, all right, look, you crying out to me now, but the faith in who I am, you lost who I was in your life. You stopped recognizing who I am to you. I'm the Lord your God. You are my people. At this time, you know, these are God's people. He had his hand in everybody's lives, but this, there was a purpose in God's people to bring about Christ so that we all could be saved. But it started with God's people. And he said, I've done this for you. I've done that for you. I've done this for you. I've done that for you. I mean, come on, guys. Like, this is me. Like, it's me. Like, what? You're not obeying me. You have all these false idols. You're fearing. You're cowering. You're building up your own defenses. Where I brought you out of these something that was worse than what you're going through now. Something that even the same thing. I told you this, but you have not obeyed my voice. We all go through that. I, I'm going through that. You go through that when you question God in the sense of where are you in my life? It is going back. God. It is looking at God's rap sheet of your life, like recognizing what all He's done, who He said He is to your life, the promises He gives us, right? Knowing what those promises are, that was one thing too. What is God's promises? And that's something that we may go through, but knowing the promise that God gives and walking in it instead of dwelling in the fear or dwelling in the our own defenses and our own strongholds. But that's look reading it, like these Israelites don't know not that they the worst type of people, but recognize yourself in that. Allow this message, allow these verses. This is the beginning verses. We haven't even got to getting it to convict you of where you are with God. And if you're at a good place where you recognize God every day in your walk, blessings. Keep that. Don't fall back. And but when you do fall back, remember, it's all about remembering. It's all about knowing, you know, injecting yourself with the word and with the promises and just everything within the Holy Spirit so that when you do stumble or when there is a stumbling block, you get right back up. But anyway, that's what God said. You haven't obeyed me, but as I just told you, I'm the Lord your God. I'm going to do these things because you came to me. But our first reaction should have been coming to Him, anyway, not to build our own, do our own thing, go off our own understanding. Of course, God gives us wisdom, but we want to include God in everything. Just because He given us a gift, we want God to be a part of that gift. When He gives a gift, He doesn't take it back, but we want God included. That's how I guess we'll be used to the best of His ability. That's how we will be walking in the best of our abilities. So we want to include God in everything that comes about um, first and not last, not a last minute thought. Uh, and the Lord came to him and appeared to him and said, "The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor." Now, what we pointed out, the angel of the Lord is from the Lord. The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor. He called him a mighty man of valor. He didn't say just a man. He just said the Lord is with you, period. It's, the Lord is with you, comma, you mighty man of valor. Now, Gideon's response is, well, the first response was, oh, my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us? And where are all his miracles which our fathers told us about, saying, did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. And so, he's coming, God is coming to someone who recognizes who he is, like, hey, I want to experience God. I want to experience the Lord, but I haven't experienced him. He was honest, like, why? If that's the case, it wasn't just, I like this, and we talked about this. I like this because he was honest with himself and he was honest with what was within his heart. The angel Lord came to him and said, the Lord is with you, you might have been a valor. But he was like, well, if he's with me, why does it look like this? Why does it look like this? This allows God to come in and give him wisdom. This allows God to come in, talk to him, and work on his heart, work on his mind. If we like, okay, fine, but deep down we're like, I don't know. That could be faith, but we want God to work in that. God wants to work on that. He wants our broken and contrite heart. So it is about being honest so that God can come in. Or we look at Jesus, Jesus asked God, this if you will, take this cup from my hand as far as like the death. Um, but lo and behold, let your will be done. Uh, but he was honest with what was going in his heart. He didn't. He had to ask God to take this cup from him, to take this. I know that I understand this is your purpose for me, but if it is of your will, if you would allow it, take this from me. But if it's not, I will still walk in it anyway. He gave his responses, and the Lord turned to him and said, "Go in this mighty wars. You shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you?" The first thing he said to Gideon as a response is, "Go in this mighty war." So he's showing this is basically telling Gideon what you're feeling right now is the might that I'm going to use to defeat your oppressors. It's already in you. I'm just going to use you. I'm going to prepare you. I'm going to guide you in it, to use it the way that it's intended to be used. So right now, Gideon had used his might, his valor to question God, to come to God in a certain way, to not have faith. But God is saying, go in this mighty yours, and you shall save Israel from the hand of Midianites. Haven't I sent you? This is something that God, it recognizes that, well, of course he put it in him, but this is a gift that Gideon had, um, that God wants to use to save Israel from the hand of Midianites. But again, Gideon was honest. He was like, "Oh my Lord, how can I save Israel? Indeed, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house." So looking back, like God had just said, the angel of the Lord said he's a mighty man of valor. And the Lord turned to him and said, uh, "Go in this mighty yours." So it's already proclaimed that he's a mighty man. But Gideon's looking at, the circumstances, looking at the now. He's looking at, what it is. Just at this moment, it's like, well, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I'm the weakest. Not only am I from the clan who is the weakest, but I'm also the weakest from my tribe, from my father's family, from my father's tribe. How am I, me, this lowly person? Like, I'm really nobody. I'm really under the radar for real. How am I going to save the Israelites? Uh, and that's what we were getting into. God working on Gideon's, um, I guess I would say, like, lack of seeing himself, how God seen him. And we all go through that. I know I go through that. I ask God all the time, show me what you see in me. Open my eyes to how you view me, and we can go to the word, of course, to recognize it, speak over ourselves, receive the joy of the Lord. But just recognizing, God, who am I to you? And you can kind of go from, okay, how does he want to use me? What has he shown me that he wants to use me? And how is he preparing me? In this passage, God is using the might that's within Gideon to save the Israelites. So God sees Gideon as a mighty man of valor, of a mighty man. And so God views Gideon. That's how we can try to view ourselves. And this is really me speaking to me, and the Lord said to him, surely I will be with you, and you shall defeat the Midianites as one man. You alone, you know, I will be with you. That's what unlocks his gift. What unlocks his gift that he has already inside of him is God being with him. Um, yeah, and he said to him, if now I have found favor in your sight, then show me a sign that is you who talk to me. And God had instructed him that night to do a certain task. And he did. He didn't ask no questions. He didn't ask for no reinforcement. He got some people to do it with him, but he destroys all to avail. But when it came to the main purpose, saving Israel, Gideon still had his doubts. He knew God was in it, but he was honest with God, and he said, "If you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said, look, I shall place a piece of wool on the threshing floor. There is dew on the fleece only, and is dry on the ground. Then I shall know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said." Look in the verses. God did it. He gave that sign. Then Gideon came back to God after that, and said to God, "Do not be angry with me, but let me speak just once more. Let me test, I pray, just once more with the fleece. Let it now be dry only on the fleece, but on all the ground let that be dew." And God did so that night. Um, and you have to really commend Gideon on his honesty with God. And uh, we can be wary on questioning God. God gives you something, you want to step right into it. That you know should be the response. Not saying that shouldn't be the response. It should be the response. We should have faith in God to do so. Uh, but getting here, he knows of God. He knows purpose of God. He's seen God. Um, even witness some of the things that God has done just in those couple of days. Um, but he asked him for a sign, and even after that sign, he said, "Please don't be angry with me, but I just need one more." He was honest, and I believe like this is showing. Like, if you know the story of Gideon, he uses him and 300 other men, I believe, to basically save the Israelites from their oppression of the Midianites and the Amalekites and the people of the east. Uh, that's something that is done. Um, but just throughout that, before we can say before doing so, Gideon needed God. Like he needed, this is him building his relationship, building his faith. Like, God, I need you to show yourself, in my life. I need you to show yourself in this, um, so I know it is you. So that I know, that you're with me. You know, uh, I remind you, God, I'm having these doubts. I'm having these fears. I know that you told me this, but God, I can't seem to get my mind around it, and I'm really wanting to. I'm really trying. Could you give me something? And that's basically what he did, twice actually. Uh, the audacity, right? But at the beginning of the seventh, this is when God um, had told him that he had too many men. Too many men was there, and he didn't need that. God said, "We don't need that." And so he gave him commands to get rid of some people. Didn't have trouble with this. This was something that he was easily able to do. He did it. The people left. He didn't worry. He didn't say, "God, are you sure? Show me a sign that we don't need this many people. Like, show me that." Like, he didn't do that. He went through it, and no questions asked. He did it. I know this is something that he didn't struggle with. Um, so the people took provisions and their trumpets in their hands, and he sent away all the rest of Israel, every man to his tent, and retained those 300 men. Now the camp of Midian was below in the valley. Excuse me. Happened on the same night that the Lord said to him, "Arise, go down against the camp, for I have delivered it into your hand. But if you are afraid to go down, go down to the camp with Purah your servant, and you shall hear what they say. And afterward your hands shall be strengthened to go down against the camp." So in this instance, You could say that because of how Gideon was honest with God, and God had um, altered how he came to Gideon, um, and what he's asking him to do, what he know when he like God, because God knows us when he knows that it's something that we may not be 100% strong on. You could say that, but God knows everything, so this is probably already planned. But let's say that because Gideon, have been having these honest conversations with God, having these, you know, revelations and walking in it, and pushing through it. In this aspect, he didn't say, "Arise, go down to the camp where I deliver it in your hand." Period. He didn't say, "Go down and do it." And again, it was like, Gideon would be like, "Well, could you give me a sign? Because that probably, we don't know for sure, but that may have been what would have happened." Gideon would have asked God for a sign. Let me know, that this is the case. But God had provisioned a way to attack that fear that he knew that Gideon had in this instance, and said, "But if you are afraid to go down and like go and hear what they're saying, and afterward your hand shall be strengthened to go down against the camp." Um, and through this, if you keep reading, you see like the Midianites, the Amalekites, people of the east, lying down, and then Gideon had came down with his servant, and they heard how one of the men was having a dream. "I have a dream. To my surprise, a loaf of barley bread tumbled into the camp. A Midian, it came to the tent and it struck it so hard it fell and overturned, and the tent collapsed." And then his companion answered and said, "Nothing else but the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, the man of Israel. Into his hand God delivered Midian and the whole camp." Um, and so it was when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and its interpretation that he worshipped. He returned to the camp of Israel and said, "Arise, for the Lord hath delivered the camp of Midian into your hand." Place ourselves in Gideon's shoes. So we place ourselves in this relationship that Gideon and the Lord had when it came to the purpose that God had for Gideon. Something that he just learned just then. God has said, "Go down and take it," but if you're afraid, go down and listen. He went down and listened because he was kind of afraid, which probably some of the other people could have been as well, but we don't know. He received the strengthening of the Lord being with him to deliver him the camp, as well as saving the Israelites from their oppressors, and he pushed on forward. So what we get from that is we shouldn't always be questioning God. It's we should grow. It should be where when God first calls us, or we're first kind of walking in such a way in the Christian walk, as trying to be living sacrifices. It's a learning experience. You don't get it first try. You learn as you go. And so we see in the chapters character development. When God first came to Gideon, Gideon, had questioned the angel of the Lord. He had said he was the weakest man in that area. He was the weakest. He was not confident in the God in him. Whereas God had said in the beginning, when he first came to Gideon, that I'm with you. You are a mighty man of valor. You are a mighty man. You will do this thing because I am with you. I am, those gifts that's already inside of you will come alive in a way because I am with you. But he still needs help along the way. Not with everything. Some of the things, when it came to the 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 idols of Baal, he destroyed that no problem. Blowing the trumpet, no problem. Saving Israelites, I need something. I'm still struggling with this, but I don't want to struggle with this. I want to know. I want to walk freely, and I want to walk strongly in it. Help me with that. I did. He gathered the people, no problem. He cut down the numbers, no problem. He didn't say, "I need all these people, but how are we gonna do this?" But the people are already weak. At that time, he probably had already, okay, got him with this. I can kind of see what he was saying. I'm seeing it now. Starting to realize it now. Starting to kind of walk on it. But so he did that fine. But when it came to taking the camp, is now it's really time for action. It's time to actually fight. Um, God had said, I want to. The camp is yours. It's yours already. But if you're not confident in it, I'm going to strengthen you in this way. So instead of Gideon coming to God, it's like I need something else. Um, God strengthened him in another way before the action, And after that point, once I kind of said like that turning point, Gideon walked more and more into what God had called him to be the mighty man about, recognizing that the Lord is with him, to continuing forward in what God had called him to be. And so he didn't ask the same question, twice. So we're trying to get a sign, to gain confidence in himself or what God had told him. God strengthened him, um, and Gideon was honest with where he was at the time, and because of that honesty, he was able to be strengthened. He was able to grow in such a way to fulfill the purpose that God has given him. So again, like relating that to us, it shows us that it's okay to ask God to help in the areas of faith. If you feel, you are to have faith, but if you're faking it, you're not really helping anyone and you're not really having faith. You can fake it till you make it, but why not ask the Lord to show up? You know, God, if it's of your will, show me a sign, God, show me that you're with me, show me this. And it could be simple as just reading the text that you read maybe millions of times. You read it again and it hits you, it impacts you in a different way because the spirit has made, you're sensitive to that now. It could be, it could be anything. And God will do it, He'll show that. But we shouldn't keep having to do it, that's something like, of course, like I'm having to learn as well, or I'm going through, like, I shouldn't have to keep asking God the same questions. At some point, I have to, I'm either going to recognize it, hold on to it, grow in it, and believe it, or not. I'm going to stay where I am. And that's the same thing for all of us. Like, what we get from Gideon is that he grew in his fear for it, and it transformed into confidence in God, in and not the fear of who he's seen himself to be, of his circumstance and surrounding. But he's seen where God was taking him, and he was in God's eyes and walked in that. And that's a word in itself. And just that story, recognizing those aspects that may, sometimes can be overlooked. One of the biggest takeaways from Gideon sometimes is how it was 2,500 men changed to 300, and God still provided a way, and um, they didn't even really fight all those men. They just blew trumpets, and you know, um, it wasn't, just a straight head on. It wasn't what we may have expected it to be. Reading, it was God provided a way for this to come about in a way that we probably would have never understood until we were in it. Until they were in it. So, um, but we also want to recognize the growth that Gideon has experienced just throughout that story and how he grew in his relationship with God. I say in that short time, and how we can do the same in ways we can do the same in ways that we can apply to our lives, even if it is in the Old Testament.